What's up, everybody? My name is PLD.
And I'm Richard Eric Jarvi. Welcome to Class Action. Dude, we're blue.
We're
Blue now.
blue. We are all blue. And actually, it's good for this episode, I think, particularly to be blue. But that's a new design from Jacob Patrick, our boy. He decided to make the whole action. She's going to do a whole color scheme thing, and we're going to go from red, and now we're blue.
You're wearing blue as well, and I'm wearing
I am
blue.
wearing a little bit.
What happened?
We didn't even plan it. This is crazy. This is nuts. Let me tell you. How you doing today, Richard? I haven't been talked to you. I think I haven't talked to you in like forever.
You're completely correct. We've been trying to hit each other up like here and there, but our schedules are so different. So, like, I'm like, Paul, so how you doing? How does stream go? It's like, no, I can't. I'm like mid streams, 2 streams. I'm doing this for Harloff. I'm doing fucking like 5 screens all together. I'm like, whoa, shit. No worries, Paul. We'll talk later.
It will. And then today's the day we're going to talk. And then I can't even do it because I have a hard out right after like 45 minutes more because I have to get my kid ready for school. It's ridiculous. We will, though. One of these days, we're going to catch up and we're going to like just sit down for like an hour and maybe do a drunk watch along with The Rock again or something like that because it's been a long time since we did that. We need to do that. But I digress. That's not why we're here. We're here to do class action. And what is class action? Well, it's where we take 2 things, 2 items, 2 directors, 2 movies, 2 whatever we want to do. We throw them up against each other. We have 5 custom-made categories. And we pit them up and see which one is victorious at the end. These are 2 exciting movies this week, I think. We've never done any kind of animation. I don't believe we've done anything animation-wise before.
I don't think so either. I don't think we have. Yeah.
All right, and this is I gotta say, the Action Army, the generals of the Action Army are big Pixar fans, huge Pixar fans. That's all I hear about is Pixar this, Pixar that, Pixar this. They have a Pixar championship they do trivia on. They wanted to do Pixar rankings and stuff. I like Pixar fine. I'm just not very as versed to it. I just don't watch them quite as often as they do. I watched the most part. I did decide that after the shorts and thon, I'm going to do a Pixar watch through and rank them just for them generals to see what I have to say about it. But that's
how many movies in there?
There's like I don't even know. Is there like 20 of them? Maybe I don't even see. I'm not.
So it's kind of like an MCU watch through.
Yeah, pretty much. I think so. Give or take 15 to 20, something like that.
So tell I know Disney owns Pixar, but. Right. Like there are Disney animated movies and there are Pixar animated movies.
Right.
Like why do they have those separate? Because it feels like Coco, if I'm not mistaken, is a Disney movie.
No,
right?
Coco is Pixar.
It's Pixar as well. Yes. What is Disney?
Disney is like Aladdin and Lion King, those kind of ones. It's like more of the music. Well, not just necessarily musicals, but Pixar was a studio that was separate from Disney.
Yeah,
Disney
I do know that. I just figured all the animated stuff would come under one banner but for some reason there are Disney animations. Like, okay, Lion King is not a good example because it's supposed to be like live action.
I mean, the original Lion King, like or the original cartoon animated Lion King.
Right.
Those kind of things. That's the Disney animation style. Where Pixar has its own studio with its own ad. But it is kind of strange though that they decided to like keep everything separate in a way. But I guess it's because Pixar was so. Pixar had its own like legendary status by the time that Disney really took a hold of them. So it's like I think that's why they kept them as separate ventures in a way. It's like having Lucasfilm and the MCU. You don't like put them under the same banner to a degree. It's still a different.
Yeah. Well, that is more of a bigger difference. But yeah, we digress. What we have here is
we're not experts. Though. We're not experts. That's the thing. No idea what we're talking about.
How did we even get here? So we're probably talking about 2 of the biggest or the best Pixar movies, because I've heard people saying The Soul is the best Pixar movie. Previously, I heard everyone say that Inside Out is the best Pixar movie. So
I've heard that from a bunch of people. I know that Up is also considered up there. Some people like WALL-E, of course. The original Toy Stories are all big as well. There's a lot of different ones out there that go up there. But these are, if I had to pick one, and actually I'm going to jump ahead of my guilt here. This is also my snap judgment. I'll tell you that right now.
Go ahead.
That before I ever saw these, Inside Out was my favorite Pixar film. That was my number one. Before I went to Soul. So we'll see where it is now. Actually, you know what? I've decided on the air, audible, after saying that, I'm not going to tell you what my favorite Pixar film is now. And I'm not going to give you a snap judgment. I decided against it.
You're not going to give me a snap judgment.
I'm not going to give you a snap judgment. How do you like that?
Okay. I don't like that, but I'll accept it.
You want to give me a snap judgment? You don't have to.
Let's not do snap judgment this week. Let's see how it goes. Because if you remember, we talked about maybe not doing snap judgment.
We did.
What I will ask is for people in the chat to give their snap judgment. What do you think is gonna win? Because we have no idea. We don't know what each of our answers are, and we find out when we wrap the show.
You know what? I'd even go one step further in the chat. Throw what your snap judgment is, but then also you got to predict what our snap judgment is, because it's two different things.
Yeah, true.
So anyway, we got 5 custom-made categories, and we did mention before we are doing Inside Out versus Soul, the two of the Pete Docter films. He's directed both of them. Pete Docter's a pretty impressive director. Like I'm going to see pretty much anything he does because I do like both of them very much so. The 5 categories we came up with are better voice acting, better animation, better score / soundtrack, better explosion of emotion to use a copyrighted action movie anatomy term, and better message and or concept. We'll explain the categories as we go. Some of them might need a little more explanation, but before we go do that, 2 things. First of all, I have to turn off the sound because my daughter's phone starts buzzing every time at 7:15, and here it is at least in the morning. So it's a little like alarm thing. It does soft music around, but
it sounds like there's an engineer and he's sort of playing us in.
It is kind of in a way. That's what we'll pretend that's what it is, but I got to go turn it off. But before we do that, what would Ed Harris play? I'll let you take that for me while I go do this. Give me 1 second. You saw about what would Ed Harris play on these 2.
Gotcha. Amazing. I've never gotten the chance to introduce this segment. What would Ed Harris play? Now, usually we take both of these movies and we just shove Ed Harris into one of the roles because he always brings 100%. He always makes every movie better. And we just figured, why not have fun with this? Dude, I've never done Ed Harris bit. This is so much fun.
I thought you liked that, actually.
So we are going to be recasting him or making up a role for him. Now, I would love to say that I remember to do this week. I didn't.
You didn't.
I don't even have a substitution, but I'm going to try and think of one.
So you're saying you want to go first, basically, while you're on the spot?
Well, Inside Out, I've got one, and it's the easiest one to come up with.
That's the best one too.
I would put him as Anger, right?
Yeah.
You need him yelling there.
You got the intensity of that. But the funny thing is, naivety would make that interesting because he's not usually a naive character, but have him be naively angry and screaming could be fun to watch.
Yeah, that is a good point, actually, because he's usually a wise character who's yelling, and you can have him because they're up in the control room and Joy's somewhere down there. So Anger is looking, you're down here, we're up here.
You walked the wrong goddamn brain, Commander.
There we go.
See, I know you said it right there. It's easy, but it is the best easy. It's the best choice to go with. I agree. So we got that under control.
Yours is the same.
Mine is the same. Mine is exactly the same, and I did
perfect.
It. I actually did Soul as well, and this one I was very careful about. Very careful.
You didn't whitewash, and you didn't recast a female character
as an old white man. No,
this is the first. Paul is not whitewashing anymore.
Not whitewashing with Ed Harris. So I go with pretty much the only bigger white old man character there is, which is Moonwind. You're placing Graham Norton as Moonwind because I like to see Ed Harris be tripped out in a way. I think he can be very fun that way. I think he's had some roles like that, like very few in his filmography, but he can handle it pretty well. It'd be interesting to see him take on something more against his character, generally speaking.
That would definitely be against his character.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to be a little lighthearted. So I don't know. There you go. You got an idea? Is that the same thing for you? So you don't want to whitewash either?
Well, I'm probably gonna, since I didn't come up with anything, I would probably create a new character, and he would be. No, that's still whitewashing because I feel like who would like be in charge of. In a way, it's whitewashing. Who would be in charge of all the afterlife and stuff? Like it should be God, right?
Right.
If I have Ed Harris as God,
that's okay.
I have recast Morgan Freeman.
Oh yeah.
So because he's always God.
Well, I'll make that acceptable because Ed Harris is also my God. So I'll accept that and not
the Harris Church.
Church of Harris. That's right. So all right.
I would somehow have him as the CEO Afterlife.
The
Let's
CEO.
call
There
it
you go. I like
that.
that. There's the 5-star general of the afterlife.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha. Pretty dear general, actually, for The Rock. That's okay. All right. Well, let's move on before we do it to get any more danger, any more trouble with that. Let's go into the better categories. All right. Better category number 1 was the better voice casting, or better voice acting, rather, I should say. Obviously, animated films, you got to throw those voices in there. This was kind of an easier one for me, I found.
Same here.
To be honest with you, I'm interested to see if we go with the same one then. So
I think I know where we're going.
Let's go in 3. 1, 2, 3. Inside Out.
What the fuck? We're always in sync.
Not anymore. Looks like not anymore. To me, all right. Part of the reason is I don't like Jamie Foxx. I've never liked Jamie Foxx. I've always had a problem with Jamie Foxx. So anytime I heard his voice, I'm just like.
So we're back to. Yeah, you were doing so well with not whitewashing. Now you just kind of.
You're not doing that. I just never liked
just
his
brought it back.
I never liked his acting. The only time I've ever really liked his acting was in maybe Collateral was good. More times I kind of more reminded of what?
Ray
was good. Yeah, Ray was good. I'll give him that.
The Soloist.
Exactly. That's what I think of more. I think of The Soloist. I think of Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think of he's just over the top for me. He doesn't really. I don't know. I never really thought much of his acting very much, to be completely honest. He has some, he got some flukes in there, but mainly I'm kind of like, so every time I kind of hear him, I'm kind of like, Then beyond that, you got Tina Fey as 22, which seems kind of a weird choice for that character to me as well.
I had no idea that it was Tina Fey until I looked it up.
Yeah, it just it wasn't very memorable to me.
Kind of generic, right?
And yeah, and you know what? Honestly, when I replaced Moonwind by Graham Norton, that was generic to me. I was like, I didn't realize who that was either. The whole thing just seemed to be very generic for me. Whereas on Inside Out, first of all, Lewis Black as Anger is a big highlight for me. He's perfectly cast. Even though I replaced him with Ed Harris, in truth, he is perfectly cast. Bill Hader's Fear, again, perfectly cast. Mindy Kaling, Diane Lane, Kyle MacLachlan, Amy Poehler's Joy. I mean, you think we've got Tina Fey on one side, Amy Poehler on the other, right? Because they're so intertwined.
Ooh,
Amy Poehler works very well. Amy Poehler does it, and then Phyllis Smith as Sadness. And even Richard Kind as Bing Bong. They all have these kind of distinct voices. They're not, to me, they're not generic at all. They have these uniqueness about them that makes it stand out to me in a better way. I just like the voices better.
I can agree with you on Richard Kind, who was the standout in Inside Out for me. Everyone else, okay, I thought Phyllis was. I had no idea that Phyllis, who plays Phyllis in The Office, her actual name is Phyllis.
Yeah,
I had no idea. So her, I immediately recognized, and she had a very distinct voice. Everyone else, like Joy, Fear, Anger, Disgust, and the human characters, Riley, Mom, Dad, they were completely fine. No one stood out, but Richard Kind as Bing Bong. Now he left an impression, and he has that sort of teddy bear kind of aspect to him. You just feel sorry for him, kind of that kid-like voice, but he brought out so much.
He's perfect for an imaginary friend, right?
Yep, that's right.
He has that childlike sound to his voice, even though he's a grown man with a deeper voice. It just sounds childlike and innocent in a way. It just worked so perfectly well for the role.
He was amazing, but he was the only one who I truly paid attention to. But with Soul, it was kind of, I don't know, for some reason, just I was like, yep, that was I had no idea who did the voice. It felt kind of generic. Again, I'm going to use that word a lot when I'm talking about voice acting, and it's the same thing with Soul. I didn't know it was Jamie Foxx until I looked it up later. I had no idea who voiced 22, but when we got to, is it called the Afterlife, or what's the area where the Jerrys and Terrys and everyone?
I'm gonna guess whatever it's called.
It's called the Afterlife. When we get there, we hear the Jerrys and we hear Terry. It's Ali Spraga and Richard. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Ayoade?
Yeah, I'm not sure actually.
And Rachel House, who voices Terry. These voices were so distinct. Terry had that sort of New Zealandy kind of accent. and these characters, and also I love that their voices were so sort of calm and soothing, but they looked like freaking stick figures. So it was like
Yeah,
this very weird tonal change that happened. And for these side characters, because in both movies, the ones who stood out were side characters, I'm going to give it to Soul because the Jerrys and Terry stole the show completely from me.
wow, I'm very surprised by
They
that. I'm
were
very
so
surprised.
funny. The stuff with Terry, like, we fixed it with Terry. It's like, oh, Terry, look it over there. Huh? Hey. Like, all that comedic timing, everything, it worked.
It was fine. It was fine. I'm way out of focus all of a sudden. Let me get back. Come on, back and forth. There we go. I kind of, I mean, I guess I did like that to a degree, but to me, it was just a lesser of the lesser of the two because it just had the inside out voices, like the emotions themselves were so, to me, a lot more distinct and like had a lot more memorable. I thought anger was hilarious. I thought Lewis Black was hilarious as anger.
Mm-hmm.
I like it because it so perfectly fits Lewis Black. Like that's what he does. He's the angry comedian, so it just like fit his role perfectly. So I knew right away. There's Lewis Black for you. I got that. So wow, I guess we're at an impasse because you're saying things I don't agree with, and I'm saying things you don't agree with, basically. So we're 1-1. That's all right. But all right, you know what? I think the better thing we can do now at this point is move on.
Let's move on.
If we do that again, I kind of like the 1, 2, 3. Are you ready to do it again?
Okay.
Again? We'll do it again.
Better animation is the next category.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
Soul.
Okay.
There we go.
I'm on the same page for that one. I got it. Unfortunately, to me, I mean, not unfortunately, but the reason why I give it to it partially is not really Inside Out's fault in terms of it's just that a few years later on, we're 5 years more down the line. The animation is a little more advanced. The techniques are a little more advanced. It's just more defined. They use a lot of different cool things, especially when designing the souls themselves. I remember reading up about how they try to find like the most wispiest kind of like colors in the world and designs they use in order to create it, adding some light textures here and there. The designs themselves are very broad, but I also like bringing in some of the culture they brought in, trying to hack the jazz culture, the African-American culture. It just added a lot more spices to what we usually see in Pixar. It's like just like Coco did in a way, it kind of took that to the next level.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God.
It took that to the next level in a way, adding more culture to it. So I do think that Soul is better. I love Inside Out's design work. But unfortunately, to me, a lot of the design work ended up feeling a lot like a Toy Story movie in a way, just because it was all kind of crazy.
Very much so.
So it wasn't quite as unique to a degree, which is where I go with Soul. So I do like Inside Out's animation, no doubt, because the Inside Out, the emotions themselves are actually pretty cool. They actually designed like the anger design like a brick, like joy was kind of like a fairy happiness in a way. Sadness, the blue color, the sadness, the colors. I would actually give the colors to Inside Out overall, the vibrancy of the colors
for sure.
But overall, Soul just ekes it out for me.
It's what you said about Soul, like showing us these like two worlds. Like, sure, we have the afterlife like area, but what really did it for me is the new, like what they made New York look like the jazz bars, everything. It felt like it felt and it sounded real, and it was like, sure, it's animation, but it was still very sort of genuine that when we were walking around the streets. And for that reason, I'm giving it to Soul as well. And I think it's the contrast. It's the two worlds that differed so much, because when we see Riley and the emotions, I don't know, there's not enough contrast there. There's not enough difference there, even though one is real life and one is not. But with Soul, we have this exactly, like, again, I'm going to go back to the Jerrys, like these weird stick figures looking like that is a very ambitious visual choice to go not go 3D. They went with 2D there.
Yeah,
they look 2D and they move really weird and they talk really weird. So, and also like the road that led to the actual afterlife, like the zap sort of like the fly stuff that it looked like it's flies flying into the, what is it called, the electricity thing, the zapper, exactly. And that was funny. And it looked really, it didn't look animated. It almost looked like photorealistic mixed with animated stuff, like the road
Right.
there, like the black sort of ingrained stuff around it. With Joy, there was one thing that bothered me, but
Okay.
I know it was a stylistic choice. Is her colors were a little like too saturated, sort of. She was like shining outwards, and that's supposed to be like that. She's Joy,
Right.
but I don't know. Maybe it's the 5 years that have sort of spoiled me in animation that it was like, okay, I can see, could use some tweaking there.
Okay. All right, I get that. I mean, yeah, okay, fine. I think that's good. I think we're up there. I guess I agree to a degree, but I hate giving Soul this over Inside Out because I did love Inside Out when I first saw it, but Soul definitely took it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give it the nod. All right, better score and soundtrack.
There we go.
Mm.
There we go. So I think Inside Out was scored by Michael Giacchino. Really great score is what I would say. Felt like a kids movie, felt like an adventure movie. But that's sort of where it stopped for me. When I was thinking about the category, like which way am I gonna decide? I was like, okay, this is probably Soul because I know there's amazing jazz music in there, and there again is this weird, quirky Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross sounds, and sort of it's not just a score; it's just making you feel a little uneasy in the afterlife. And when the Jerrys come, and it almost sounds like Pokemon Go at some point. It was very. It did. It like when they're running to jump to Earth when they have their badge. It's like I'm pretty sure they like stole that from Pokemon Go.
They correlated right from there. I didn't play Pokemon Go enough, so I couldn't tell you. I will say that Reznor and Ross, Atticus Ross, are his score or their score rather. It kind of had a pulse the entire time. It was very electronic. I mean, not getting out of the jazz stuff. When it was the actual score, it was very almost like a heartbeat. I felt like it was always something like it kind of. So it really felt like it was kind of falling into that heartbeat type pulse. The jazz was great. I loved hearing the jazz aspect of it. There was nice little background stuff. You don't get that enough in films like this repeatedly. So I love that as well. I've gone back and forth on this one actually when we started coming to this category because I actually felt Inside Out was better than you made it out to be. To me, I thought the score used space in between the score very well, if that makes sense. There's a lot of like silences in the score that like kind of the music comes in and out. Like it's a different kind of pulsating beat. But it was a starkness of the emotions when they're going through the dangers and everything else. It didn't want to use a whitewashing score. Reznor and Ross's score was kind of a constant pulse. The whole thing was kind of almost like a hum with the beat in a way. Whereas Giacchino would use this very different kind of, I felt, a different stylistic source. But when it did come in with the swells of emotion, so to speak, it made those swells even more effective than they would have been. I might be nuts here. I like Soul's score. I might be the only one because everyone I was talking about Soul. I liked Inside Out just a smidge more. Just a smidge more.
I was expecting this to happen because Giacchino has this John Williams vibe to him a little bit. So and Inside Out is more of like a Spielbergian movie, if that's even a word. So yeah, it makes sense that you would go that way, and I'm okay with it because you kind of you explained your way. No, I don't want to say out of it, but your explanations actually made me think for a second that I should go and revisit that score or that movie.
I think you definitely should if you haven't. So I mean, so you're sticking with Soul then?
I'm sticking with Soul. Yeah, it's the jazz and it's the weird, quirky music that just meshes together. Love it.
I get it. And here's the thing about this: when I discovered all 5 categories, as I say, I actually hate giving victories to any of them because I do really think that they all, like animation, score, soundtrack, they all stood out to me from each side. It's just a matter of which one did I like just a smidge more in a way.
That's how we come up with the categories. We take the best parts of these movies and we pit them against each other. So even though we have to pick a loser, these are like the best parts of both movies anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So beyond that, next, I guess we go with better explosion of emotion. You want to define that? Or you want me to define that?
Well, this goes back to the action movie Anatomy days, right? When we had fist pump moments. And sometimes there were movies that, you didn't have like a fuck yeah kind of a moment, but you just felt either shattered or so sympathetic by a look a father and a son gives, or something dramatic happens. So
From
I
the
think
score,
it
score wise, is
exactly.
fun as well. You just feel this rise inside of you. It's a pure emotion, so much so that the emotion explodes out there. Thus, explosion of emotions.
So we're stealing this from AMA, and we're totally okay with it. Do you want me to take this one?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and start with this one?
There's two big moments that, and I'm not going to veer off them. It's in Soul we have Joe playing the piano and realizing not really what the essence or the reason for living is, but he realizes that he needs to give his past to 22, and that is his sort of true calling, that he has already lived and he has to go back for her. And that song that comes on when he sees his life flash before his eyes, that really simple piano song that he just makes up, and he remembers the what's it called? It comes down from the tree, sort of.
Oh, the
I don't know what it's called in English.
It's not leaf. I forget what it's called too. Off the top
Yeah,
of my head.
it's like a seed or something like that.
Yeah.
So all of that, like that was the moment for me in Soul. Inside Out, it's gotta be when Bing Bong decides to stay behind. Like it has to be that moment, and it is that one for me. So I said to myself, it's Richard Kind is the strongest part in that movie for me, and I'll be completely honest, I wasn't a fan of Inside Out at all. Like people were, when he first came out, I was like, okay, that's an animated movie. I don't get the fuzz. I rewatched it with Soul now back to back, and I loved it. And this moment in particular really changed for me, and I saw the importance of it in a different way. And after that movie and after that moment, I'm like, I'm not gonna let these little things that the kid inside me still enjoys, I'm not gonna let them die. So Bing Bong, him staying behind, that that takes it for me, even over Soul.
Okay. Oh, interesting you say that. I agree with you on Souls, the aspect that when Joda has that in the moment where he realizes what living is and what the badge means. That's not
Mm-hmm.
those things you do, but just the choice to live, the choice to want to live and live for living's sake, so to speak. That is very big for me. And the funny thing is, for me about Inside Out, Big Bomb was huge for me. I actually had one that to me was even bigger.
Hmm.
And I don't know if it's because I'm a father of a daughter, or because I have because I have dealt with some females in my family who have kind of struggled with depression and things of that nature. The very moment when Joy relinquishes control to sadness, and well, first of all, I could take it back. When she is empty of emotion, she's on the bus and everybody's lost control. And the control board's broken. Like they're not doing it, and nothing they're doing is working. And she's not. It's not about happy, sad. It's about being completely numb. And in some therapy sessions I've done with my daughter, that's like where the worst part of depression is, where you don't feel anything at all. Like you can't feel anything. You're almost a dead body, just like walking there. That's what it is. Because you try to be happy all the time. You try to be happy for people. Try to be happy. So smile or do this or whatever. And then Joy comes back and they save the day. Joy comes in to save the day. And she's learned something at that point. She's learned that's not just the happiness that you need sadness just as much as happiness, because sadness can still push you to do stuff. And so sadness takes over a little bit. And it's just enough for her to realize that she's scared and she wants to leave the bus. She leaves the bus and gets home. And then she breaks down crying to her family, to her father and mother.
Chills.
I lost it. I started tearing up. I started crying. Like it was so beautiful to me that moment. It was this big, like overwhelming sense of like my daughter, depression, all in one, and it just hit so hard for me. And it was such a beautiful moment. It overtook anything I saw in Soul. I loved Soul. I love Soul. I thought Soul had some great messages, which we're going to get into, and some powerful moments. But that hit me so hard that to me it was easily Inside Out, much more of an explosion of emotion for me.
Okay. If I had gone with Soul, you would have turned my decision.
Well, I'm happy to hear that because that means a lot to me in a way. But yeah, I'm actually having a hard time talking about it. Just thinking about it, I'm like, wow, got to take a minute to deal with
that's why Inside Out and Soul are considered some of the best Pixar movies. These topics, subjects that it tackles, and there's no better way than to just continue to our next category, and that is better message and concept. And both movies tackle subjects that are very like, well, Soul, for example, tries to answer the question, what is the meaning of life?
Right.
And it kind of tackles it head on. We don't get an answer, but we don't get left unsatisfied either.
Right.
So they kind of ask the question, they don't answer it, but they give us this sort of levity and, I don't know, choice freedom that we don't have to find out what the meaning of life is. We just have to enjoy what we love to do and see the little things. And also, like, why I love Coco, I feel like death is an important part of life and it needs to be discussed. I always go back to the Yoda line, like, rejoice for those around you that transform into the Force. More them do not, miss them do not.
Right.
And I love that Coco and Soul tackle that subject, because death is natural. It happens to everyone. We have to accept it. It doesn't have to be a thing that destroys you completely, because you're going to do it. I'm going to do it at some point. Not everyone is going to have someone in their life who's going to pass at some point. So for Disney and Pixar to sort of cater that to children in a sort of like a neat way, that they put this bow on it, I think it's really important, and I love it.
I don't disagree. One of the minor problems I had as well, if it's a problem, is I kind of felt it was definitely related to Inside Out in a way, but I think Inside Out kind of did similar things, just they did it first and better to a degree to me. I guess I'm giving away myself right now. Soul does deal with death, but it's a very broad stroke topic. I feel like Coco did it a lot. So I think this is something that has been done before to a degree. Maybe not. It's not saying the Soul doesn't do it successfully and amazingly successfully. To me, Inside Out was a lot more unique, though. Like the way it tackled, like, death is something that we all have to talk about, and it's all kind of a sad thing. But mental health is something that's like a stigmata still to a degree. It's still not getting the attention it really deserves. It's starting to. I think we're starting to go down the right path now. But Inside Out tackled that head on and tried to put on the screen like visual representations of something that we have a hard time understanding. Like, everyone I shouldn't say understands death, but you said it the best. Like, everybody's had dealings with it. It's something that's considered something that's important, considered something that's like you're going to have to deal with.
Inevitable. Yep.
Inevitable. Whereas mental health is something that people don't always see. It's invisible. You don't always get a chance to see it, but it's there just as strongly as death is for some people. In some ways, it's equally as bad as death is for some people. And like, it goes back to my explosion of emotion, the way that they tackle that kind of subject of how you need to have that, first of all, that numbness and not feeling emotion is probably the worst place you can be. But not only that, but that you have to embrace even the negative emotions to live life. It's a combination of joy and sadness, and that you need the sadness to indicate that you're in trouble, that people can come help you. That's what makes you happy, because you get this. One of the key parts is when Riley misses the goal. And it's a sad moment, but then it led into the happiness of the family consoling her and getting into it and like really trying to make her feel better and everything else. And it showed that love. To me, this felt like a much more unique way, or a unique topic to discuss, and a message to discuss. It hasn't been discussed very often. And to do that with children, it was such a great, to me, it was one of the best things about Inside Out was it was a message for the children. Like, this might be what's happening inside of you. And but there's also a message for parents. Parents looking at their kids, and you can look at their kids in a new way. Like, this is what's going on in their minds. And it does it in such a great way. And there's humor to it, too. And I love, some of my favorite moments of Inside Out was seeing inside the brief time you get inside the father's head and the mother's head. They're totally different. Just give me a look. What's that look? I don't know how to look.
What's happening?
Okay. Just the completely wrong. Or the time with the kid in the AC/DC thing, they're about to the rock band. There's so many cool moments, but the idea behind the whole thing is that it's a message for both kids, a different message for both kids and adults, and lets everybody come together for one. And it's so much more unique to me than the idea of, and I say this with all the love, the idea of you got to live to live, or living life is what's important. I mean, I don't mean to trivialize it or minimize it, because it's very well done. I like Inside Out more for that reason, for the uniqueness of it.
Yep. I do like the fact as well that Inside Out shows you like that we have emotions, we're not our emotions. So when we get overwhelmed with one, it's it's not as easy always to, but you just think that, okay, I'm not gonna let anger take over now. I'm just gonna, or even if I do let it take me over, it's for a reason, and I'm not gonna let it linger for too long. Yeah, everything you said. But you're talking about what happens in the dad's head and mom's head. That got me thinking. One of the funniest parts in Soul was when 22 is showing Joe that she's been messing with the Knicks for years. Dude, that part, like, I rewound that like countless times. I sent it to all my friends who love basketball who hadn't seen the movie. That is the best moment in the movie. Like, okay, explosion of emotion is better. I just wanted to talk about that moment for a second because that was just brilliant.
The funny thing is, actually, I heard all about the Knicks joke. I just heard it as the Knicks joke or the basketball joke.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't know what it was. When it came up, I was kind of like, that's pretty funny.
And the Knicks lose another one. It's like, no, now we know.
That's pretty good.
But yeah, I agree with everything you said, but to me, sort of life and death and that topic resonated more. And I feel like that's what it comes down to, because for you, emotions and dealing with mental health resonates more for you. Dealing with life and death resonates more for me. I don't know. It feels like we're very subjective on this one, but that's what it is. That's how it is.
That's how it is. They're both other things. So I guess we go into that's message now. Maybe here's the thing. I almost feel like I'm kind of audibling here, because I'm going to let you know right now we're at 5-5.
Oh, are we? Okay.
Now, we had said something about better leads, but I almost feel like we should stretch this topic out to a part 1 and part 2. And the reason why, I feel like we talk about the message of the film, but we also kind of said this film's message and concept. I think we should tackle the concept, it's almost like a combination of animation and this, like the design behind and the conception behind the film themselves. For what I mean by that is, you have a film on Soul and conceptualizing the afterlife and what that is, conceptualizing how people move on to the afterlife, and how people are born into the world. Whereas Inside Out, it's conceptualizing the human brain and trying to make that into something. It's almost different than the message of the film in a way. We can actually tackle those two. I'm going to audible there. I'll let you decide whether you want to do that or not.
That's okay. We can try and do that. It's not prepared, but we can try and go there.
We're going to try. I like it better than Lee, because Lee's kind of was boring to me when we thought about it as a bonus, to be honest with you. And this is where I would also give this Inside Out, because of the idea.
Of course.
I love looking in.
Well, you know where I'm going, so this is
You're going to sell. Okay. Yeah, maybe we should.
I already talked about like the Jerrys and Terrys and everything, and a little bit ties into the animation part as well. How they came up with these characters, because Inside Out, it feels like it's another sort of Disney Pixar sort of insert colorful character here. So yeah, I feel like we're going in separate directions again.
We are. Because I love the concept of the human brain and seeing. I mean, not that it's terribly original to try to tackle it. There's like a sitcom called Herman's Head. There's like SpongeBob episode. There's always kind of way you get to see inside the human brain. But I loved what they did with the aspect, like the islands, the core emotions, of the core memories rather, and that just have the different emotions be physical beings that get to argue with each other in each other's head. I just love that. I've always loved that kind of concept. Whereas to me, Soul was great. I loved a lot of it, but it seemed a little more generic to me than Inside Out did in a way. And I don't mean it as in it was generic, but it was like more generic. You know what I'm saying? It's like saying, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10 on generic, I thought Inside Out was more of a 10, whereas Soul was like a 9 kind of thing. Like so, Inside Out was just a little more unique for me. But
This is where I go to. Yeah, this is where I go to like the lost souls and everything like that. It's sort of, you see these, you know these kind of people who are so ingrained in their work or either their hobby or something, they just completely forget themselves and they become these monotonous robotic entities.
have the lost memories though, and those like things like they fuck with you by throwing you the gum commercial over and over again that they took them
Yeah,
back.
I love that one.
Like things that the dreaming sequence where you have the dreams coming up. They have the lens, the studio that they had for the dreams and the reality filters. They have these really random like creatures. The reality. Oh, it's the teacher. Oh, it's the friend. It's because the I thought it was so imaginative to do it that way too. Man, we're both stuck now. You know what? I almost feel like we should just hung. I don't know because I don't know. Like we to go better leads. We can go better leads. You're gonna say Soul, and I'm gonna say Inside Out.
Yes.
Because I agree.
I'll probably say Joe because I feel like he's more of a nuanced character, as in Joy is sort of just like she's Joy.
But she learns so much.
She does. I know she does.
I love Sadness more than I love 22. I love Anger far more than I love Moonwind. I don't know. It's kind of like I don't know. We're going with each other. Just okay. I'm gonna call it. We don't do it very often. I just think we have to have a hung jury. I think we have to be equal, and that might piss people off.
That's okay with me. I know Americans can like comprehend what a tie is, but I'm okay with that.
I mean,
so totally threw Americans under the bus now. Like you people.
Or but you know what? Then that's what we got to do. Then I guess we got to say that because I think if we keep arguing, I think it's obvious which film you like more.
It is.
Which film I like more.
Definitely.
So I don't think we can have. We could say, well, I'm sorry, Action Army Generals, if you're pissed off at us now for doing it, but I'm going to say hung jury. We're going to have to call it. It's the tie 5-5, 6-6, 7-7, whatever you want to call it. They're both great.
And I'm totally okay with that. And I think, but it's weird. I started to think about why I didn't like Inside Out the first time I watched it because it was 2015. I was 26 years old. Like I knew the way of the world. I could have comprehended these kind of emotions, but for some reason now, when I'm 31, I was like, okay, I get it now. I get this movie now.
Right.
Why didn't I get it back then? Like, was I really so naive back then?
Yeah. You're 20s. You're 20s. I was young 20. I mean, honestly,
I was a fucker back then. How did you know?
But I was in my 20s. I probably said the same thing. I mean, I saw this 5 years ago. I was late 30s.
But it's a movie for kids.
But the thing is, it's for kids, but it's also for the parents of kids and the adult age. Like at that point of it, that's part of it.
That's where Soul. I feel like Soul, and I think Ben and Drew said it themselves. Soul is more of a animation for adults, as an Inside Out is for both. I feel like Soul. Like sure, it is for kids, but Soul is more aimed towards grown-ups. It feels like it.
I think to me, it's what the difference is. Not that Inside Out is for adults or kids both. It's for them both, specifically for them to come together in a way, which it's the meeting of the mind, so to speak, in a way. You know what? I'll tell you one thing. I gave both these movies 5 stars. I did.
Me too.
So,
yeah, no, I think I gave Inside Out a 4.5.
That's fine.
I think I did that.
You fucker. That's okay. You just so messed us up.
So you heard it here.
I'm marking Soul down to 4.5 now.
Soul wins.
No. All right. That's all it is. That's going to be our show for today. I guess we did our best to do it. Unfortunately, sometimes a hung jury is what happens. So Inside Out definitely won.
You said it yourself. You gave.
I changed my mind. I just changed my mind.
I'm gonna show you a letterbox right now on air. That
you are, huh? You are, huh?
All right. I'm gonna find it. Paul. Where are you, mother? I can't find it.
Oh wow! You know what? Actually, I did give it 4.5. Never mind. I actually literally did give it 4.5. I'm not even joking at this point. I thought I gave it 5 stars, but I gave it 4.5.
Sure.
Either way, who cares? It doesn't really matter anyway. They're both winners. They're both awesome movies. If you haven't seen them, go check them out because they're both connected to a degree too. They're both very similar. And Pete Docter is amazing because you know what? Pete Docter also directed Up, which we were talking about beforehand. We were talking about beforehand, like the best Pixar of all time.
Mhm.
Pete Docter directed Up, which is the other one that a lot of people would consider in that range of being the best of the Pixar films. And he also directed Monsters Inc., which is a lot of fun. But all right, that's what we're going to end today, guys. Richard, where can the folks find you?
You can find me at Richard Eric with a K Jarvi on Facebook and Instagram. And I would say here weekly with PLD Newsy, but we're kind of having a weird scheduling thing. So you'll see us here maybe bi-weekly?
I
Weekly?
think go to bi-weekly. I think that's something we might actually end up doing. We'll have to talk off air about it. I think bi-weekly might be the way to do it because I'm also, I'll even pitch it now. We're going to be starting a Star Wars show on PLD projects that we might be able to balance back and forth possibly to do as well. So, but I think we'll go class action. We'll go bi-weekly for now. I think that might be the best way to go about it. So.
I actually have a pitch for next week. Not next week. The week after that is maybe we talked about this one, and I really want to do it. I want to do The Town versus The Departed. I feel like we should do that one.
You're calling it out on air, so I guess we got to do it, huh?
Usually, I would rather do The Town versus Heat because they're more similar in ways. But you said The Departed, and I find that intriguing as well.
I think it's a good way to go. I want to say, oh God, they're going to come in. I'm going to say it on air. I'm going to be wrong. I think Brandon Buckingham actually suggested this at one point to me. And if it wasn't you, Buck, I'm sorry. I give you credit that you don't deserve, but I'm pretty sure it was. I think it's a great idea. I like both films quite a bit. They're both very in that same realm of, as far as time goes, they're both in the like late 2000 aughts, so to speak. And I love both films. So they're two of the greater films of their kind. So I think they'd be a good matchup. So. I'm gonna go with that. Let's do it next time, which might be a week from now, might be 2 weeks from now, probably 2 weeks from now. So we'll go from there. But all right, you can find me at Paul_Newsy on Twitter. Find me at Action Industries. The main shows that Ben and Drew do on the weekly weekend, every weekend, using Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Action Unfiltered, their various show on Saturday, and then Sunday is the Action Guys. Usually behind the scenes producing, and they pop me on screen every once in a while. And also you can find me in Call to Action, the movie trivia showdown podcast after show, the two-time award-winning Schmodown Media Show. Two times, love it. Do that show to action. Also going to bi-weekly basis as well, but also Call to Action Live as well. And finally,
going for the three-peat.
Go for the three-peat. We're gonna see what we do. There's a lot of competition now. We had a lot of good competition this week. Let's get ready. Certain Point of View, Machine Mondays, Repeat the Question. All of them were great nominees, and there's been an explosion of these new shows coming out. I just mentioned Buck Mount Schmoedowns when they do. He just got a new one that actually I'm going to appear on, I believe, next week. I want to say next Monday they're doing a show called Schmo Me the Money. It's going to be it's another fun show there. So yeah, find me as well. And finally, said PLD Projects, Scoundrels of the Force. That's going to be our new Star Wars show. It's going to be myself as the High Council Master, so to speak, and then I have Richard Jarvi, I got Bador, I got Matty Gunner, and a few other people possibly rotating through Danielle or Ramirez sometimes. We'll kind of mix and match as we need things. We're going to go over different things. Some people might not get to read a book, so I might have substitute people. We'll have to see how that goes.
I feel like I'm going to be more along for the ride because you guys are like so far deep into the lore, and I'm just like, sure. Yeah.
Well, that's why I could have Danielle Ramirez there because she's actually like you as well. She's a Padawan, as she called herself. She's a Padawan. Like you are as far as
PLD one.
PLD one. I like that. I kind of like
PLD
that.
one.
I might use that. But that's it for now, guys. As always, we thank Ben and Drew to allow us to little slice on Action Industries. Much appreciated. We salute you guys for that. And anything else? Well, this weekend more to do with Action Industries. So stick around, like, subscribe, leave a comment. All that jazz. For Richard Jarvi, I am PLD. Justice has been served. The court is adjourned.
The foot is going down.